know what separates people who shape the world from those who simply exist in it? It's not intelligence. I've met brilliant people who never amount to anything. It's not connections. I've seen well-connected individuals waste every opportunity handed to them. It's not even luck, because luck, as I've learned, is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and most people aren't prepared to recognize opportunity when it's staring them in the face. What separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is something far more fundamental, yet infinitely more powerful. They act as if they already own what they seek, before they actually possess it. This isn't about arrogance or delusion. This is about understanding a profound truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The universe responds to certainty like metal to a magnet. When you move through the world with unshakable conviction, doors don't just open, they swing wide with anticipation. But here's what I discovered after 3 decades of studying human behavior, after watching thousands of people rise and fall, after seeing the patterns that repeat themselves across every industry, every culture, every generation. Most people have the equation completely backwards. They wait to feel confident before they act confident. They wait to feel successful before they behave successfully. They wait to feel worthy before they claim their worth. But champions, they figured out the secret formula. They act their way into being. The moment everything shifted. Let me tell you about the night that changed my understanding of human potential forever. I was 28 years old, trapped in a cubicle at a company where my ideas went to die. Every morning, I'd watch the executives walk past my desk, and I'd think about all the innovations I could bring to the table, all the solutions I could provide, all the leadership I could offer. But I was just a mid-level analyst. I was just someone who processed other people's decisions. The company was facing a crisis. A major client was threatening to leave, taking millions in revenue with them. The executives were panicking. Meeting after meeting produced nothing but more meetings. I watched from the sidelines, knowing exactly what needed to be done, but believing I had no right to speak up. Then something inside me snapped. Not courage, I was terrified. Not confidence, my hands were shaking. But something deeper. A refusal to let my potential die in that cubicle while the company burned around me. I didn't wait for an invitation. I didn't ask for permission. I walked into the boardroom during their emergency meeting and said 5 words that changed my life. I have the solution you need. The room went silent. 12 executives stared at me like I'd just interrupted a funeral. The CEO's face was unreadable. I had maybe 30 seconds before security escorted me out. So I did something that went against every instinct in my body. Instead of apologizing, instead of explaining why I was there, instead of asking if I could please maybe possibly share an idea if it wouldn't be too much trouble, I acted as if I belonged in that room. I stood straighter. I spoke louder. I presented my solution with the conviction of someone who had been invited to save the company. And you know what happened? They listened. Not because I was the smartest person in the room, there were Harvard MBAs sitting at that table. Not because I was the most experienced, I had less tenure than the secretary. They listened because I acted as if what I had to say mattered. That solution saved the client. More importantly, it taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. The world doesn't respond to your credentials. It responds to your certainty. 6 months later, I was promoted to director. A year after that, I was running my own division. 3 years later, I started my own company. Not because I was ready. Because I acted ready. The 3 tribes of humanity. After years of observing human behavior, I've discovered that every person on Earth belongs to one of 3 tribes. Understanding which tribe you're in and which tribe you want to join is the first step toward transformation. The spectators. The first tribe is the largest, the spectators. These are the people who watch life happen around them. They're intelligent, often well-educated, frequently talented. But they suffer from a debilitating condition. They believe they need permission to live their own lives. Spectators wait for the boss to notice their hard work. They wait for the perfect moment to start that business. They wait for someone to ask for their opinion before they share it. They wait for conditions to be ideal before they take action. I once knew a woman who spent 15 years waiting for the right time to write her novel. She had the story, the talent, the time. What she didn't have was the belief that she could call herself a writer before she'd been published. She was waiting for external validation of an internal truth. She died with her novel still unwritten. Spectators live in a state of perpetual someday. Someday I'll ask for that promotion. Someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll tell them how I really feel. But someday never comes because spectators are always waiting for someone else to write their story. The dreamers. The second tribe is smaller but more dangerous, the dreamers. These people have vision. They can see the life they want, the success they crave, the impact they could make. They make plans, set goals, buy the books, attend the seminars. But dreamers have a fatal flaw: they confuse planning with doing. They think about action so much that they trick themselves into believing they're actually taking action. I knew a man who spent 3 years developing the perfect business plan. Every detail was researched, every contingency planned for, every scenario mapped out. His plan was flawless. His execution was non-existent. While he was perfecting his plan, 3 competitors launched similar businesses with imperfect plans but perfect execution. They're now millionaires. He's still planning. Dreamers are more dangerous than spectators because they feel productive. They're always busy planning, busy preparing, busy getting ready to get ready. But all their motion is mental. They never translate their dreams into reality because they're addicted to the safety of potential rather than the risk of actual achievement. The architects. The third tribe is the smallest but most powerful, the architects. These are the people who build their own reality. They don't wait for permission, perfect conditions, or complete knowledge. They act from a place of deep certainty about who they are and what they deserve. Architects understand a fundamental truth that eludes the other tribes: action creates clarity, not the other way around. They don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step because they know that the staircase will reveal itself as they climb. I once met a woman who left her corporate job to start a consulting business with $347 in her bank account, no clients, and no clear idea of how she'd succeed. What she had was unshakable certainty that she could figure it out. She acted as if she was already a successful consultant. She rented office space she couldn't afford, designed business cards for a business that didn't exist yet, and introduced herself at networking events as the consultant who helps companies double their revenue. Within 6 months, she had her first 6-figure contract. Within 2 years, she was running a multi-million-dollar firm. Not because she had a perfect plan, but because she had perfect conviction. Architects don't wait to become the person they want to be. They decide to be that person now and let reality catch up to their decision. The neuroscience of becoming. Here's something most people don't understand about confidence: it's not a feeling you experience. It's a biochemical response you create. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what you're actually experiencing and what you're convincingly acting out. When you stand like a confident person, your brain produces the hormones of confidence. When you speak like a leader, your neural pathways begin forming the patterns of leadership. Dr. Amy Cuddy's research at Harvard revealed something revolutionary. Holding a power pose for just 2 minutes increases testosterone by 20% and decreases cortisol by 25%. Your biochemistry literally changes based on your posture. But it goes deeper than that. Every action you take sends a signal to your subconscious mind about who you are. When you act courageously, your subconscious files you under courageous person. When you act confidently, it updates your self-image to match your behavior. This is why actors often struggle to separate from their characters. They've spent weeks or months convincing their nervous system that they are someone else. Their brain accepts the performance as reality. You can use this same mechanism to become whoever you choose to be. The stories that shape us. Let me share 3 stories that illustrate how powerful this principle can be when applied with intention. The executive who never was. Marcus worked in the mailroom of a Fortune 500 company. Every day, he delivered messages to executives who made more in a month than he made in a year. But Marcus had a secret. In his mind, he wasn't a mailroom employee. He was an executive in training. He started small. Instead of wearing the company-issued uniform, he bought 3 business suits and rotated them throughout the week. When people asked why he was so dressed up, he said, "I'm dressing for the job I want, not the job I have." Then he went further. During his mail rounds, he would listen to the executives' conversations and offer insights when appropriate. Instead of just dropping off documents, he would say things like, "I noticed the quarterly numbers in this report. Have you considered the impact of the seasonal adjustment?" Most people told him he was crazy. "You're a mailroom clerk," they said. "Stay in your lane." But Marcus didn't see lanes. He saw opportunity. Within a year, an executive offered him an assistant position. Within 3 years, he was a junior manager. Within 5 years, he was running his own department. The transformation didn't begin when he got promoted. It began the day he decided to act like the person he was becoming rather than the person he used to be. The speaker who conquered fear. Sarah had a paralyzing fear of public speaking. Just thinking about standing in front of a group made her hands sweat and her heart race. But she had a message that needed to be heard, a business idea that could help thousands of entrepreneurs. Instead of waiting until she felt brave, Sarah did something counterintuitive. She booked herself to speak at 5 conferences before she had even written her presentation. "I forced myself into a corner," she told me later. "I couldn't back out because I'd already committed. So I had to become the person who could deliver on that commitment." 4 months before her first speech, Sarah practiced not just her presentation, but her identity. Every morning, she would stand in front of her mirror and say, "I am a powerful speaker. I have a message that transforms lives. People are grateful to hear what I have to say." She didn't believe it at first. The words felt hollow, fake. But she said them anyway. She practiced walking onto stages that didn't exist. She rehearsed accepting applause from imaginary audiences. She acted out conversations with grateful audience members who thanked her for changing their lives. By the time she gave her first speech, her body and mind had already experienced success hundreds of times. The actual event felt like a familiar routine rather than a terrifying new experience. Sarah is now one of the highest-paid speakers in her industry. She commands 6-figure fees for presentations that began as an exercise in acting as if she was already the person she wanted to become. The entrepreneur who built an empire. David had an idea for a revolutionary software product, but he had 3 problems: no money, no team, and no credibility in the tech industry. He was a former teacher who could barely afford his rent, let alone fund a startup. But David understood something that most aspiring entrepreneurs miss: people don't invest in products. They invest in certainty. Instead of approaching investors as a desperate former teacher with a dream, David decided to approach them as the CEO of a company that was already changing the world. He created a professional website that presented his idea as an existing company rather than a concept. He wrote press releases announcing partnerships that didn't exist yet but would exist once he had funding. He spoke about his team even though his team was just him and his laptop. Was this dishonest? David would argue it wasn't. He wasn't lying about what existed, he was speaking about what was inevitable. He was acting from the future he was creating rather than the present he was stuck in. His certainty was so compelling that his first investor meeting resulted in a $2 million funding round. That funding allowed him to build the team, develop the product, and create the partnerships he had spoken about with such conviction. Today, David's company employs over 500 people and has revolutionized how small businesses manage their operations. The empire began not with money or connections, but with the decision to act as if success was already guaranteed. The daily architecture of confidence. Confidence isn't built in moments of crisis. It's built in the small decisions you make every single day when no one is watching. Every morning, you have a choice. Will you shrink to match your circumstances, or will you expand to match your potential? Here's how to build unshakable confidence through daily practice. The morning declaration. Before you check your phone, before you read the news, before you let the world tell you who you should be today, take 5 minutes to declare who you are becoming. Stand in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eye. And say these words with conviction. I am the architect of my own destiny. I act with confidence because confidence is my natural state. I speak with authority because my voice matters. I move with purpose because I know where I'm going. The world responds to my certainty because I respond to the world with unshakable belief in myself. Say it until you feel the energy shift in your body. Say it until your reflection nods back with recognition. Say it until the words become less like affirmation and more like simple truth. The power walk. Your body teaches your mind who you are. Every step you take is a vote for the person you're becoming or the person you used to be. Walk like you own the sidewalk. Not arrogantly, confidently. There's a difference. Arrogance pushes people away. Confidence draws them in. Keep your chin parallel to the ground. Your shoulders back and down. Your stride purposeful and deliberate. You're not walking to your destination, you're walking into your destiny. The confident conversation. In every interaction, you have a choice. Will you shrink to make others comfortable, or will you expand to match your worth? Speak 20% louder than feels natural. Most people speak too quietly because they're unconsciously trying not to take up space. But your voice is your instrument of influence. Play it boldly. Make eye contact not just when you're listening, but when you're speaking. This is harder than it sounds because eye contact while speaking requires confidence in your message. But it's also more powerful than you realize because it forces the other person to engage with your certainty. End statements with periods, not question marks. Don't turn declarations into requests for approval. I think we should pursue this strategy is more powerful than do you think we should maybe consider this strategy? The evening review. Before you sleep, spend 10 minutes reviewing your day. But don't focus on what went wrong. Focus on every moment you chose courage over comfort, action over inaction, expansion over contraction. Did you speak up in a meeting when you normally would have stayed silent? Celebrate it. Did you introduce yourself to someone new instead of hiding in the corner? Acknowledge it. Did you take one small step toward a goal instead of finding another excuse to delay? Honor it. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Every courageous act, no matter how small, is evidence that you're becoming the person you're meant to be. The resistance you'll face. Here's what no one tells you about transformation: the world will try to keep you small. Not out of malice, but out of familiarity. People are comfortable with the version of you they know. When you start acting differently, they'll unconsciously try to pull you back to who you used to be. Your family will say, "You're acting different. Are you okay?" Your friends will joke, "Look who thinks they're too good for us now." Your colleagues will whisper, "Who does she think she is?" This resistance isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you're doing something right. When a lobster outgrows its shell, it has two choices: shed the shell and grow, or stay in the shell and die. The process of shedding the shell leaves the lobster vulnerable for a time, but it's the only way to reach its full size. You are that lobster. The resistance you feel from others is just their recognition that you're outgrowing the shell they knew you in. The compound effect of character. Small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary results. This is true in business, in relationships, and especially in personal development. Every time you choose confidence over doubt, you make the next choice easier. Every time you act as if you belong, you strengthen your sense of belonging. Every time you speak with authority, you develop more authority to speak with. This is the compound effect of character. Like money in a savings account, your confidence earns interest. The more you have, the faster it grows. But also like money, confidence must be invested to grow. You can't just hoard it. You have to risk it to increase it. The 1% rule. You don't need to transform overnight. In fact, dramatic changes rarely stick because they're too far from your current identity for your subconscious to accept. Instead, aim to act 1% more confidently than yesterday. Stand 1% straighter. Speak 1% louder. Take 1% bolder action. These micro-improvements are small enough to avoid triggering your psychological immune system, but significant enough to create momentum. A 1% improvement every day compounds to a 37x improvement over a year. Who would you be if you were 37 times more confident than you are today? The science of certainty. Certainty isn't just a mindset, it's a physiological state. When you're certain, your body produces different chemicals than when you're uncertain. Certainty increases dopamine, which enhances focus and motivation. It decreases cortisol, which reduces stress and anxiety. It activates the prefrontal cortex, which improves decision-making and problem-solving. In other words, certainty doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you perform better. But here's the key, you don't have to wait to feel certain to access these benefits. You can create the physiology of certainty through your actions, and the feeling will follow. Stand like a certain person stands. Breathe like a certain person breathes. Move like a certain person moves. Your body will begin producing the chemistry of certainty, which will create the experience of certainty. The magnetism of conviction. People are drawn to certainty like moths to flame. In a world full of doubt, the person who moves with conviction stands out like a lighthouse in fog. This magnetism isn't about charisma or charm, though those help. It's about something deeper, the relief people feel when they encounter someone who knows where they're going. Think about the leaders you most admire. What draws you to them isn't their perfection, it's their conviction. They make decisions. They take stands. They move with purpose even when the path isn't clear. This conviction is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are paralyzed by analysis, crippled by options, frozen by the fear of making the wrong choice. But leaders understand something the masses don't: the wrong decision, made with conviction and adjusted as needed, is better than the right decision that's never made at all. The practice of possibility. Most people live in the prison of their past. They let their history dictate their future. They say, I've never been good at public speaking, or I'm not a salesperson, or I don't have leadership experience. But the person you are is not the person you are. And the person you are is not the person you're becoming. Every day, you get to choose which version of yourself shows up. The version that's limited by past experience, or the version that's unlimited by future possibility. The identity shift exercise. Write down 5 limiting beliefs you have about yourself. Be honest. What stories do you tell yourself about what you can't do, don't deserve, or aren't capable of? Now rewrite each limiting belief as an empowering truth about who you're becoming. Instead of I'm not good at public speaking, write I am developing into a powerful communicator. Instead of I don't have leadership experience, write I am growing into the leader my team needs. Instead of I'm not creative, write I am discovering new ways to express my creativity. Read these new truths every morning. Not as affirmations, as reminders of who you're becoming. Act from these truths throughout your day. Make decisions based on the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. The economy of energy. Energy is the currency of success. Not time, we all have the same 24 hours. Not talent, talent without energy is worthless. Energy. Confident people understand that energy is both finite and renewable. They invest their energy in activities that multiply it rather than drain it. Complaining drains energy. Problem solving multiplies it. Worrying drains energy. Planning multiplies it. Doubting drains energy. Acting multiplies it. Every moment you spend in doubt is energy you're not investing in progress. Every moment you spend waiting for certainty is certainty you're not building through action. The energy audit. For 1 week, track your energy levels throughout the day. Notice which activities, people, and thoughts energize you, and which ones drain you. Then make a radical decision, eliminate as many energy drains as possible and amplify as many energy multipliers as you can. This isn't selfish, it's strategic. You can't serve others from an empty tank. You can't lead from a place of depletion. You can't inspire confidence if you don't have confidence to spare. The revolution of responsibility. Here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. You are 100% responsible for your results. Not responsible for what happens to you. You can't control the economy, other people's decisions, or acts of nature. But you are completely responsible for how you respond to what happens to you. This responsibility is actually your greatest power. When you accept complete responsibility for your results, you reclaim complete control over your future. Victims focus on what's happening to them. Architects focus on what they're creating through their response to what's happening. The responsibility challenge. For the next 30 days, eliminate these phrases from your vocabulary. I can't because. If only. They won't let me. I don't have time. It's not fair. Replace them with. I choose to. I will create. I am responsible for. I make time for. I focus on what I can control. This isn't just positive thinking, it's powerful thinking. When you change your language, you change your mindset. When you change your mindset, you change your results. The timeline of transformation. Transformation happens in phases. Understanding these phases helps you stay committed when the process gets difficult. Phase 1, awkward action, days 1 to 30. The first phase feels fake because it is fake. You're acting like someone you're not yet, and your body knows it. Every confident gesture feels forced. Every bold statement feels hollow. Every courageous act feels terrifying. This is normal. This is necessary. This is the price of admission to the person you're becoming. Don't quit because it feels uncomfortable. Quit when you stop growing, not when you start growing. Phase 2, authentic acting, days 31 to 90. The second phase feels more natural because you're starting to get evidence that the new behaviors work. People respond differently to your increased confidence. Opportunities appear that weren't there before. Your results improve in measurable ways. You're still acting, but the acting is starting to feel less like acting and more like practice. Phase 3, integrated identity, days 91 to 365. The third phase feels effortless because confident behavior has become your default. You no longer have to remember to stand straight, you just do. You no longer have to force yourself to speak up, you just do. You no longer have to act confident, you just are. The acting has become being. Phase 4, unconscious competence, year 2 and beyond. The fourth phase feels automatic because confidence has become so integrated into your identity that you can't imagine being any other way. People who meet you now assume you've always been confident. They can't picture the uncertain person you used to be. You've become the person you once pretended to be. The multiplication effect. Here's what happens when you truly embody confidence. You don't just change your own life, you change the lives of everyone around you. Confident people give others permission to be confident. Courageous people inspire courage in others. Leaders create more leaders. Your transformation becomes a gift to everyone you encounter. Your certainty becomes a bridge that others can cross to reach their own potential. This is the true power of acting as if you already deserve what you want. You don't just get what you want, you become someone who helps others get what they want too. Your defining moment. There will come a moment, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, when you'll have to choose between the comfortable person you've been and the powerful person you're becoming. The old you will whisper reasons to stay small. The new you will roar reasons to expand. That moment will define everything that comes after. Not because it's the only moment that matters, but because it's the moment when you stop talking about change and start being change. The world doesn't need another person who knows what they should do. The world needs people who do what they know they should do. The world doesn't need another dreamer who waits for the perfect moment. The world needs architects who create perfect moments through imperfect action. The world doesn't need another person who hopes for a better future. The world needs people who act their way into that better future. The ultimate choice. Everything you've read, everything you've learned, everything you've understood comes down to one simple choice. Will you continue being who you've been, or will you start being who you're meant to become? Will you wait for permission, or will you give yourself the order? Will you act when you feel ready, or will you act your way into readiness? The person who achieves everything they want and the person who achieves nothing they want often have the same dreams, the same plans, even the same opportunities. The only difference is this: one acts as if they already deserve what they want. The other waits for proof that they deserve it. The universe has already given you everything you need to succeed. The only question is whether you'll give yourself permission to claim it. Stop waiting for the world to validate your worth. Start acting in a way that demonstrates your worth. Stop hoping for opportunities to find you. Start becoming the kind of person opportunities seek out. Stop wishing you felt more confident. Start acting more confidently until the feeling catches up to the action.